Welcome to the Content Amplified podcast, brought to you by Masset. Our goal is to help you get more from your marketing content. Each episode is a 10 to 15 minute interview with industry experts that share amazing insights to help you squeeze as much juice from your content as you possibly can. Here's today's interview.
Welcome back to another episode of Content Amplified. Today I'm joined by Alex. Alex, welcome to the show.
Happy to be here.
Alex, I'm excited for this conversation. I feel like I'm going to learn a lot today.
I hope so. I hope I can deliver something.
For sure. I'm excited. Well, Alex, before we dive in, let's get to know you a little bit better. A couple things I'd love to ask. What do you love about content and marketing? And then let's hear about your background and get to know what you've done in your career.
So what I love about content and marketing, I think that content is one of the key drivers for companies to capture clientele by storytelling. And I think that that's such an interesting aspect, especially working in a D2C company, being able to deliver our messaging to our customers in ways that's easy for them to digest, whether that be in an article or in a video or an Instagram post or any other myriad of ways. It's such a fun way to get that messaging across. And there's 1,000 ways that you can take one message and disseminate it. So that's always been an interesting puzzle for me to figure out. And pulling that into a broader marketing strategy is just kind of a nice little puzzle piecing that I thrive on, I feel. As for my background, I work currently at Bobbie. We're an infant formula company. I've been there for about 2 years, leading performance content and organic acquisition, which is a very long way of saying I try to do SEO for the company as a one-woman show and influence our overarching content strategy. It's been a really fun learning opportunity to kind of get my hands dirty and doing everything, because prior to that, I worked at Wayfair on the SEO team, which was a team of about, 20, 25 people when I was leaving. Maybe more if we included engineers. There were entirely too many people on our team. But we all did such amazing, fun things. And as I was in a leadership role on that team, I didn't do as much hands-on SEO work anymore. And I was really missing that in my day-to-day. So moving from a team that large to a team of just me has been a really fun culture shock, I like to say, of jumping back into everything. But it's been a really fun learning opportunity. Working at Wayfair was amazing. I learned so much from everyone on the team, everything from technical SEO to more engineering. I learned coding. I tried to learn Python, which props to anyone who has learned Python, because that's hard.
I had the Python programming job for one summer, and
wow.
I could not do it very well. I don't know why they paid me money to do it.
I mean, kudos to you, because that is a tough language, but I tried, man. I could not get it though. The engineers at Wayfair are top notch. They hire some really great talent there. Bless their hearts. They really tried to teach me, and I was unteachable in that one. But while I was there, I led search content and our link acquisition strategies. So focusing on how we could kind of revamp and revitalize Wayfair and our other brands' blogs and use those to drive long tail searches to our sites and influence in purchasing decisions, which was a really fun, again, like puzzle for me to put together, following a customer's journey and how they want to purchase something for their home and what information they're looking for to make them feel confident in this online purchase. Because if you talk to most people, they're like, I don't want to buy a couch online. Why would I buy a couch online? I want to sit on it. I want to know what it feels like. And so my job was to make sure that the content that we were putting out actually helps people understand, when you read these words in a description, this is what it means for your comfort level or for its durability. And that was a really cool opportunity for me. We took it from kind of like a dying end of the business to something that was generating close to $2 million as I was leaving, which is small fry in comparison to a lot of things that Wayfair is doing. But for content, that was a whole lot of nothing before. It was a really great opportunity for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I worked in social media marketing for a university in Boston. And then I worked in content more content development prior to that. Long ways.
I love it. I love it. That's so powerful. So today we're going to talk about a lot of what you have really experienced, really performance content, search-driven strategy, things like that. So just to make sure everyone's on the same page, when you talk about performance content versus search-driven content, what would be like decent definitions so everyone kind of is on the same understanding?
Yeah. So I'd say, and I like to categorize them differently for a couple of reasons, but search-driven content is really like using data from what people are searching for on the internet and using those keywords to drive your content strategy. And it's a wonderful way of getting things done. It takes kind of like that psyche of your customer and understands like what they're thinking about when they're trying to make their purchasing decision, and helps guide your content that way, which is awesome. Then you're hitting customers when they're searching for, in the formula industry, things like how much formula should my baby be eating at X months old. Performance content, on the other hand, is like what I view as longer form content that drives a purchasing decision. So like its ultimate goal is conversion within your funnel, wherever it lands. So making sure that it's, hitting kind of like those search optimization points, but also giving your customers an experience that drives them to purchase. And I like to sit kind of over all of those things and pull it all together into one cohesive strategy.
So let's say that we have content that's often, focused heavily on search driven. That's a pretty typical strategy for most businesses. How do you morph that into performance content? And how do you like to, like you just said, how do you like to keep it in one umbrella, one cohesive strategy? How can you unite those efforts?
It takes a lot of steps along the way, but I think the most important one is to prioritize who is your customer base and what do you want your content to talk about and what do you not want it to talk about? Because when you come to search-driven content, there are 1,000 things that people are searching for. But is it something that you want your website to be known for or your product to be known for? In our case, in like the formula space, there's tons of things that parents care about in their whole first year that they're using formula. But is that something necessarily that we want on our site that we think is going to drive to conversions? Probably not. So there's a lot of things that I end up leaving on the table, right? Like I leave a lot of highly searched blog posts on the table of like, I won't touch that because at the end of the day, it doesn't drive to our overarching strategy of conversions or having folks sign up for a subscription. However, when you look at the full funnel of your customer and what they need from you, you can kind of pare it down that way of them taking the content that fits the needs of what you want to be known for in your space, putting that together into a package, and then working with other channel owners to ensure that it also fits into their overarching funnel strategy of, is this something that we can send out to current customers, to potential customers? Is it something that we can piecemeal down into a bite-sized chunk for our Instagram or our TikTok if we want to do a video form? And can we use this one piece of content to drive multiple different channels? And I think that pulling it out that way and looking at it in a broader sense makes it a little more difficult. It requires a little more upfront work on making sure that it's in the right lane for you, that it serves all of these needs. But at the end of the day, it should streamline a lot of things for folks down the road and help them to create content for their channels as well.
I love it. So one of the things I feel like most businesses gravitate towards the search content is because of the trackability. It's pretty easy to say, we got X amount of hits, there's this big of an opportunity, yada, yada, yada. How do you measure this system where you're taking search content and expanding it to multiple channels and areas? How do you kind of look at analytics, tracking, and communicating the success and the direction of what you're trying to do with your content?
Yeah, it's definitely not as straightforward, and it definitely requires help along the way from the other channel owners. What I end up doing is working with the other channel owners to understand what their success metrics are across the board. So take our lifecycle team. I work super closely with them because a lot of content ends up going into our email marketing. I work with them to understand, what are your success metrics across the board? Is it open rate? Is it click-through rate? I can't really impact open rate super well. I'm not a copywriter, right? Like I don't write our subject line. So bless our copywriters who do that because they do a wonderful job. But our click-through rate is one that I do impact. Is our story something that is something that is enticing for our customers to then want to click and read through? And then I can track the data from that point of like, how did they interact with our page on the site? But I like to take those successes from those channels of like, okay, it had a higher click-through rate. That means our customer base, our existing customer base, right? If that went out to our subscribers, also enjoys this content and it's pulling in new customers from search and going that way. It means that you kind of have to take a step back from your lens of what success means. Because in my case, success means ranking well across our targeted keywords and conversions from our content. Time on page is also nice that I can ensure that they actually read the piece of content. Beyond that, like those are my main metrics of success, but I may not get that same type of success metric if it comes from an email because our current customer probably won't convert. We do a subscription model, they're already subscribed. However, if it did go out to our current subscribers and they clicked through it at a much higher rate than they do our normal content that's in our emails, that is a huge sign for me that this content is beneficial across the board for people that we're going after. And I think that for me, that's the most important way to kind of sit there and justify, okay, this is what's working. These ones are not. Here's where we'll lean in more. And here's where I need help or budget or whatever it might be to invest in this area a little bit more.
So one question I have with that is, it seems like your planning has to involve more people, more channels, more groups, more areas. How do you run planning and really thinking about this in advance?
It is difficult. And I will say I'm not a perfect expert at this because we are still trying to roll out the perfect solution. But what I've been trying to do is gather all of our leaders, like our team leaders or our channel owners, and try and calendar out up to 6 months, which is increasingly difficult. We are a startup. Things change constantly. I have not had a calendar that hasn't changed since I started 2 years ago. However, sitting down and having like a come to Jesus of like, here's the stuff that I know people are searching for. And this is kind of how all of our content strategies end up starting is I come in with the data that says people are searching for these things. That is the type of stuff I'm going to make content around. How can we work it into your content strategies? And we try to make like monthly themes. They're loose, they're easily moved around for the most part, but they kind of help tie us all of our channels together. So that way we have a little bit more of a cohesive strategy across the board. But it takes a lot of work. It's the scheduling of making sure everyone's in the room, the understanding of shifting deadlines or shifting priorities. We need to get our creative team involved for assets that need to be created to make this like more cohesive. And from my end, that's been a lot more upfront work on top of what I have to do already with my work. But it means that we have easy content that we can plug and play across the board for channels that all stem from this one data-driven nugget that I found of like, people want to know about blah. Let's go. And it's not perfect and it's not something that I think I'm particularly great at. There are tons of like project managers who are probably like, oh girl, I could do that so much better than you. Please stop. And I would love to. I would love to be a project manager and understand what the heck I'm doing. But for now, that's the best way. And keeping open lines of communication amongst channel owners is huge.
Cool. I love it. Shifting gears, this is a subject I'm really interested in. And so I apologize if this is a little bit of a curveball. Where is search and performance marketing going? So there's a lot going on with AI. There's a lot going on with how people approach marketing. Even the buyer's journey is so much different nowadays because of wanting to consume content before they talk to people. How and where do you think those areas are going to move in the future?
Yeah, it's been super interesting to watch it unfold. And I think especially with the rise of social channels as like that research step, I've been leaning into kind of broadening out our strategy. So starting with search, we have the most data in organic search, right? Like when it comes to these types of channels. And that data is historical. We have a lot of like years of seasonal data, so we understand what people are searching for. And in my space in particular, like it's not going to change dramatically what people are searching for when it comes to the first year of feeding your baby. So I can use that with some confidence across the board. But I think that search owners in particular need to start expanding their strategy to those social channels and taking the information that they hold and sharing it with social owners in order to own those spaces within like TikTok and Instagram search, that where people are leaning on to get that real like firsthand information. I also think that it's an important strategy to use when it comes to like influencer work in the marketing space, to find people to deliver that type of content that hits on those things that we know people are searching for, and they want to hear that like vote of confidence from people, and kind of like planting the seed on someone else to do that work for you with like your careful eye on it. I think that that's a huge play. I think it's very, especially with TikTok, I think it's been very interesting to see how people are using that as their research journey, and how a new generation of users are using that over Google search. I think that there's still a lot of hesitation over trusting AI. You know, like Google's still the first to be like, this is an AI generated. And I know offhandedly, a lot of people are like, absolutely not. Not trusting that. Like I'll keep scrolling till I see something I trust, which is great for me.
Yep.
But I don't see AI as a detriment to organic search. I just think, like paid ads, it's just something that we're going to have to overcome. And I've overcome paid ads. I've overcome even more paid ads and more paid ads, because as you know, if you look at your Google search, like it is the whole like first half of your page is just ads. And
this just this morning, I was like, I'm scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. Okay, I finally got to an organic result. Yeah.
It's awful. But if you want to hit it to people, always, and this is a very sneaky trick I have, but if you're searching for something or you're doing like competitor analysis on people, just like Google them and then click their paid ads. So they have to pay for your research.
Good
that's
times.
an aside. But I think that there are ways that we can use AI either to our advantage or just adapt how we work based off of it. And I think that's the most wonderful thing about organic search. You know, I've been working in SEO for over 10 years at this point. And the SEO that I started in 10 years ago is not the SEO that I'm working in now, but it's still so valuable, and it holds so much data into how people make purchasing decisions, into how we research things, into just how we think about the world around us. And I think that that will always be important. It's just, how do you use AI to either your advantage or try and figure out how to make something better than AI so that you get ranked or AI pulls your result in.
Yeah, and I like how you talked about, social media people. I feel like search and social are going to have to combine, because at the end of the day, social is just a search engine. It's just not the Google search engine, right? Like there are ways to rank on TikTok, ways to rank on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, whatever it may be. And I think it'll be interesting to see those two personality types coming together, saying, okay, cool, here's how we rank for the algorithm, yet have compelling content and all of that. It'll be interesting to see how people navigate those waters.
Totally. And I think that there's space for both of them. And there's room for everyone to like come together for one type of strategy. And I think that that's the best part about having a marketing team that works so closely together, is that we can have those conversations of like, hey, I've seen this happening in search. Like it's rising, or this thing that people are searching for is growing. What are you seeing on the social channels? Like what's there? Or vice versa. They're like, this has been like popping off on TikTok. Is this something we should care about? Is this not necessarily trends? I'm the last person to ask about trends, but we've seen a lot of people asking this question, or types of videos coming up. Is this something we should answer? And like, then I can go in and like pull some data and be like, okay, yes, this is not a flash in the pan. This is like definitely something. And it's just like getting super hot right now on this particular channel. And that's been really, really cool. And as someone who is like probably way too old for TikTok, but like exists on it anyway, like it's been a really fun learning experience for me as well, of like, hey, like there are ways that we can take our content and make it work across the board for different types of customers. There will always be a customer who's like, I will Google this till I'm dead. And like, perfect,
Yep.
I love you. Thank you so much. Google everything. But then there's a customer who is like, I'd rather see what TikTok has to say about this, or what my favorite influencer has to say about this before I make that decision.
Yeah.
And if you're not thinking about all of those different areas where people are searching, you're leaving opportunity on the table to own the conversation, which ultimately is a detriment to your brand or a great advantage to your competitor.
I love that. And again, as promised, these episodes go by quick, and I think that's a great way to send it off. Alex, I've learned a ton. This was really, really helpful. If anyone who is listening to this, who's also learned a ton, I'm sure everyone listening will. If anyone wants to connect with you online and reach out, how can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn, Alexandria McGann, and my website is alexandria-says.com.
Very cool. Love it. And we'll link to those in the show notes. Alex, again, thanks for the time today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the Content Amplified podcast. Please subscribe and leave us a review. And for additional ways to get more out of your content, visit our website at getmasset.com. That's getmasset.com. And tune in next time to the Content Amplified podcast.